understanding of cause and effect relationships without a lot of technical stuff that's involved with regressions and correlations and such. And you still are able to teach students how to strategize in terms of putting together cause and effect relationships with data in a simple way where they simply do percentages across and percentages down and control for different variables. A lot of exciting questions can be answered just with contingency tables, but you still give students the feel of what it's like to do social science research at a more advanced level, because after all, we're always looking at how various factors affect dependent variables, and this can very simply be done in contingency tables in a way that's easily accessible to freshmen, sophomores, people who've never had a statistics or a methods course. And that's why we choose contingency tables as part of the way we do things. We're going to talk about the DataCounts tutorial. DataCounts is a feature of our SSDAN website, which gives you access to data, to programs, and to modules that have already been produced by other faculty members that allow you to introduce census data through the analysis of contingency tables in your classes. So we're going to go through a little bit on DataCounts. And then we're going to have an interactive DataCounts demonstration where we will live show you how to do an exercise, a module for using DataCounts to examine, in this case, in the case you're going to look at, the impact of immigration on the educational attainment of different race and ethnic groups. And then after we show you the interactive DataCounts demonstration, you're going to have a little individual time to work on examples of your own. Not a lot of time, just enough to kind of get your feet wet and then report back to us any questions that you have. And then we'll have a wrap up. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I think I've already covered as much as I want to say about contingency tables, but let's move on and talk about DataCounts. And DataCounts, as I said, provides you with access to lots of data sets intended specifically for classroom use and specifically kind of focused around contingency tables. And it's maintained by the Social Science Data Analysis Network, which I said is supported by the National Science Foundation here at the University of Michigan. And here's a way that you can access DataCounts. You can just go to www.ssdan.net/datacounts/ and we'll get you there. Or you can just go to ssdan.net. And then when you're there, you can click on the DataCounts piece of the website. Pretty easy to get there. Next slide. And this is our front page of DataCounts, the home page. Talks a little bit about what we do. But if you go through each of the different tabs, the How To tab will put you to various tutorials to show you how to use WebCHIP, although it's not very hard. You should learn most of what you need to know right here at this webinar. And then we also have modules, over 100 learning modules, utilizing DataCounts, Census, and American Community Survey data sets. You can search them by grade level or subject or browse mode. And then you learn more about DataCounts, WebCHIP, and SSDAN. We have a little more information there for you. And then we also have a glossary of all of our data sets and tells you the kinds of data sets and variables that are associated with our data in kind of a systematic way. But normally the way we use DataCounts is to launch right into a particular data set that's related to a cause and effect relationship or a substantive question that you might have. And this is going to show you a little bit more about this. And generally, you're going to want to search or browse using the manual launcher that we have. In the case today, we're going to tell you exactly how to find a particular data set that you're going to need to know. And often you're going to tell your students where a particular data set is, and they will use that to do their exercises. So we will use the dataset browser, and you can select data sources of various different American Community Survey, Census, even current population survey, and general social survey data sets are on. We emphasize the American Community Survey and the Census with a very complete listing of lots of different interesting data sets you can use for class. And we also have, in this case, if we look at the data sets in this ACS 2005I, special immigration set, and in many of our other data sets, you can actually get data sets for each and every of the 50 states. So most of our data sets are national, but in many cases, you can get a data set for every of each of the 50 states, which helps you to make, perhaps you want to assign a different state to everybody in your class or something like that. And then this is the way to that you can do that. Okay, well, what is WebCHIP? WebCHIP is the program that we use to make these contingency tables. There used to be an older version called StudentChip. It's available through licensing through Data and lots of different workbooks and other course resources have used StudentChip for several decades. But since 2000 or so, we've been able to upgrade StudentChip, or at least make it more accessible through the web. And what we're going to demonstrate for you today is the very latest reincarnation of WebCHIP that has lots of neat features in it. So you don't have to download a program. You can do all your analyses right on the web, but I guess on your iPhone and your iPad too, if you can figure out how to get to our WebCHIP resources. Go ahead. Next. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about teaching with contingency tables. In this case of a particular example that we're going to follow, it allows students to understand the relationship between two variables after you introduce additional variables as controls. For example, what might affect income, or how might you be able to explain race differences in income. Perhaps controlling for different other variables. But household types are more likely to be in poverty. Obviously, make a table that has household type by poverty status. And in the case of one of the items we're going to look at today, how the levels of education between immigrants and native-born citizens compare. So contingency tables, as I said earlier, is kind of a simple way to have students really get an initial understanding what social scientists do by looking at data, looking at evidence to confirm hypotheses without making it overly technical. So we'll start with this question. Do immigrants who have entered the U.S. recently earn less than those who have entered decades ago? And how does the year of entry affect the earnings for immigrants? This is under a hypothesis that immigrants who have been here for a long time have had more ability to kind of become assimilated or acculturated into American society, better able to get schooling here, better to have higher levels of income than maybe new immigrants. That's at least a hypothesis. And in addition, if we find the answer to that question out, well, that's the secondary question: does race make a difference? In other words, does it differ for one race group than another race? Hispanics have a different pattern for this, and Asians, for example. Okay, and we'll now move to the next question. Now, if we were going to answer this question, the relationship between immigration status and earnings, this is generally how you would formulate a table, a contingency table. Notice we don't have any numbers in that table. We don't even have any categories, but we're just looking generally, how does this variable relate to that variable? And that's how we would set up a contingency table. Well, the American Community Survey data set we're going to show you will allow you to fill that table in and to think about the labels that you would put on the categories of the different variables and sort of hypothesize about which way you need to see the numbers go if those hypotheses are true. So we can move again, and this is the screen you'll look at when you finally get into WebCHIP, and we'll show you a little bit later more specifically how to get in there. But you will see a data set defined, data set that we've talked about here, has only a few variables and no more than 9 categories per variable. The idea then is to make this a very simple kind of exercise for undergraduates, not dozens of variables, not hundreds of categories, but make it fairly simple. They still have the ability, though, to make mistakes and learn from the right way or wrong way to make a contingency table, but it sort of narrows their ability to do that without having lots of issues of recoding and stuff like that you would use with SPSS or SAS or something like that. This particular data set is a universe of full-time, year-round civilian workers aged 25 and over from the weighted 2005 American Community Survey. And it only has a few variables: race lab, which is our race Latino variable, gender, age, immigration status, education, and earnings. And if you go to the menu above, you can see what the categories of each of those variables are and their frequency distributions. Simply go under the command menu and check marginals. Here you can see for at least some of those variables. The others are further down the screen. 12% of the population of these workers aged 25 and over are Latinos, and 70.6% are non-Latino whites. Immigrants are about